Donald Trump desperately wants to create a PR fig leaf of populism for himself, especially in advance of handing trillions of dollars over to Mark Zuckerberg and Jeff Bezos and all that, which is why you've probably seen some headlines going around like this. Trump revives push for higher taxes on the rich. Which is rich when you find out the details about this. No, he's not doing that. He's not doing that at all. On his social media, he's not even really claiming to do that, but you have organizations like the New York Times willing to take this like one or two statements that he makes and be like, oh yeah, no, he's probably serious about that. I mean, it runs directly counter to everything he has ever said about taxes. But yeah, no, all of a sudden he wants to raise taxes on the rich. So here's the cover story. Here's what they would have you believe. It's that Trump wants to create a new top marginal tax rate for millionaires, which sounds like higher taxes on the rich. Here's what it is. They would be taxed 2.5% more for the income they make over $1 million in a year, which is barely anything to begin with. But also when you step back, you realize that new tax rate of 39.6% or whatever is what the top marginal tax rate used to be, only it used to apply to people who made significantly less money each year. So this, if he was serious about it, would only be returning to a weaker version of the status quo before he became president. But don't worry, he doesn't mean it at all. Look at what he posted on True Social. Oh my God, the excuse he's giving as to why he's not gonna raise taxes on the rich. The problem with even a tiny tax increase for the rich, which I and all others would graciously accept in order to help the lower and middle income workers, is that the radical left Democrat lunatics would go around screaming, read my lips, the fabled capital Q quote by George Bush the Elder that is said to have cost him the election. No, Ross Perot cost him the election. In any event, Republicans should probably not do it, but I'm okay if they do. He's saying they shouldn't do it in the True Social post, but that's by far the least important part. The slightly more important part is that in crafting this BS cover story, he goes off on a weird tangent about Ross Perot because his brains are pudding. But the most important part is that he claims that he would tax the rich more, but leftists like us would attack him for it. And that's the only reason, because you know those leftists constantly whining about taxes on the rich going up. This is such, I don't want to swear, I don't want to get in trouble. It's, insert a word, it's BS, Brett, what do you think?
I love that. I want to live in Trump's America so bad. And by that I mean, I wish I was able to ignore all contradictions and BS and nonsense that he spouts. Because those seem to be the happiest people right now. The ones who are like, we got him. And rather than look at what he does and ask myself whether it's good, I'm just gonna look at Donald Trump and whether he thinks what he did is good. And if he says it's good, good. But like, he's telling you it's more likely that people who have been pushing for higher taxes on the rich would be angry at higher taxes on the rich. Like, we're not dogs who might catch a car, man. We are people who are principled and think that the rich need to pay their fair share as we proceed very quickly toward a widening wealth gap in America where the oligarchs have everything, all the ownership, and by invest, they have the money to invest in new companies, get ownership of those companies, and grow and grow and grow and grow as they eliminate what Trump says are the middle and lower income workers of America from participation in the economy. But like, he does it in a way that no one can follow. It's nonsensical word goop. It's saying that he wants it, but he doesn't want it, but I want it. He basically is doing in this what he does with everything else, where the good things about it, that's me if they happen. The bad things about it, not me, someone else is the bad guy in that scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, on top of everything else about this that's terrible, it's yet another, as you point out, example of him being the most buck stops anywhere else politician we've ever had. Again, it's like him having this reputation for authenticity when he lies literally more than any other politician we've ever seen. And he also has this thing of like, oh no, he does stuff. He's an alpha, he's strong, when he refuses to take responsibility for anything he does in politics or in his personal life. It's sad that people buy these myths. The PR webs spun by the wealthy are just too effective, again, for too many people. But in any event, I want to turn to a related tax-related topic. Let's jump into this. Wisconsin Republicans just killed marijuana legalization as well as like everything else that the Democratic governor wants to do. Tony Evers, he had a lot on his plate that he wanted to accomplish with this budget, and unfortunately, Republicans still control the legislature there, so none of that stuff seems like it's gonna happen. So they voted along party lines to kill more than 600 budget proposals put forward by the governor, including spending more state money on childcare providers, expanding Medicaid, and raising taxes on joint tax filers that earn more than $1 million. Just a confirmation again, the Republicans are there to protect the wealthy. That's the entire point of it. They have done this same thing to his previous 3 budgets. They say they will continue to do that, which if you're a voter in Wisconsin, maybe keep that in mind when choosing who to send to the legislature, because you guys voted in Evers. Maybe give him a legislature that's not gonna stop him from doing everything that he campaigned on. In any event, there's other things that they killed, like allowing absentee ballots to be processed before polls open on election day. That had bipartisan support, but they just killed it. With this and many other things, they say, oh no, we'll bring it back as like an individual thing or whatever. Well, then why did you kill it individually in this? Anyway, other things that were killed, eliminating the tax on tips. That's what the Republicans did. Just remember, that was Trump's thing, supposedly. They're killing it in Wisconsin. Increasing funding to combat what some people call forever chemicals or PFAS chemicals. They don't care about that. Targeted property tax cuts for veterans, seniors, and people with disabilities. Screw them. Spending $128 million on new financial aid targeting low-income college students. Screw that. And adding gender-neutral language such as person inseminated to state law. Perhaps not surprising the Republicans would have a problem with that. But they also killed all the economic stuff. So they supposedly have some other tax cut plan that they're working on, but they've killed tons of stuff that was bipartisan. So I don't necessarily have any support on that. They're already saying, the Republicans, that most of the state's roughly $4 billion surplus should be returned as tax cuts rather than used to support spending on K-12 schools, the University of Wisconsin, and other state programs, because of course they want it given back to the wealthy and not spent on the people. Least surprising thing ever. Brett, what do you think?
I don't respect anyone who opposes putting the words person inseminated in their legislature. That is hilarious. That's an amazing turn of phrase. And it's less esoteric than our founding documents sound when you read those aloud. When in the course of human events, you're just like, oh, all right, buddy. All right, I understand. There's nothing weird about that. They don't actually do the thing. This is what Americans are upset about, is this, when everybody runs with one thing in mind, or they've acted a certain bipartisan way before, meaning that these are things that not enough people disagree with. People on both sides are like, yeah, it seems like we should have this rule that's nonpartisan, that allows people to do things in a generally intuitive way. And then the legislature just comes up and is like, no, don't want that. Don't want to do that thing that expedites the counting of votes so that we have the answers, because they want not to have the answers so that they can make up a fake story about how everything's corrupt and they can have Donald Trump's 5th term.
Yeah. No, it's a great point. I mean, probably in the next presidential election, if it's close, we'll have them complaining about it. Why isn't it done already? And we won't even remember this story at that point. But God, I hope that some voters are paying attention to all of this. The Wisconsin that they could have had if they didn't have Republicans just serving as a roadblock to anything happening. And as it was pointed out by producer Mike, and it's true, Wisconsin is one of the most gerrymandered places. I mean, we've talked about that, about how the Republicans have wildly more representation in the legislature than they do actual vote share. Hopefully something will be done about that in terms of the state Supreme Court. But for now, sorry, Bert, you were gonna say something.
But what I would say is, look at the eliminating tax on tips and then the returning the tax money to the people who paid it. Think about that. They don't want the money to stay in the hands of people who need it to survive, like servers. Servers work on tips, right? They want a cut of that from those wildly rich waiters.
Yep.
But no, we want to give, instead of taking them that in source of income away from something different from, California has giant budget surpluses and deficits because it depends on how well the wealthy did, because California taxes the wealthy the way we should, right? Wisconsin's just got a normal tax code from what I know. And so they're saying that they would rather give money back to the rich people than let it stay in the hands of the poor people, which anyone who knows economics knows that the poor people spend their money. The rich try to just keep more of it. What's more effective? Injecting money into the economy so it can be involved in transactions, or giving it to people who will do everything possible to be rich while spending the least amount of cash?
Yeah, what if your goal wasn't to stimulate the economy? What if it was to return that money to the rich? You'd have a different calculus.